Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Vedic Astrology Podcast. My name is Fiona Marques. Today, we're doing something a little bit different on the podcast. We're having a look at the transits in this solar month of Pisces that has just begun. And we're looking at that from the tropical perspective, as the sun is the planet that defines the Rasis. We're using the Tropical Ayanamsa. The first thing to notice is right between the 19th and the 20th, the sun goes in to Pisces from our perspective here on Earth. Very soon after that, the 22nd, we have Venus and Mars lining up from our perspective. That will be in Aquarius. That's a passionate combination in that interconnected, one for all for one kind of space of Aquarius. The very next day, Mercury is going to move into Pisces from our perspective. Then we have, following that on the 24th, of full moon. So there's quite a lot of action right at the beginning of this solar month of Pisces. So you might find that feels very activated, like one thing after another. And then after the 24th of February, after the full moon, the next set of things in March to draw your attention to is that this will be the new moon in Pisces. And right at that time, we're also going to see Mercury moving into Aries. And as we see in our diagram here, sure enough, Mercury has moved around a little bit further. And then the very next day, on the 11th, from our perspective here on Earth, Venus moved into Pisces. So those are the main things that change during the month. The moon is going to do a full cycle through the zodiac during that time while the sun is in Pisces. As we entered Pisces, the moon was waxing, heading towards a full moon. It was in Cancer. On the 24th of February, there's going to be a full moon, and then the moon will move through all the other zodiac signs as it's waning and returning to the sun until there is a new moon in Pisces on the 10th of March. And the other planets are, if you can see the screen, you can see they're together. The other planets are also moving mostly through Aquarius and Pisces. Apart from that, we have Jupiter in Taurus, and we have Saturn also in Pisces. On screen, we have a little animation. If you can imagine yourself looking from Earth's perspective out onto the solar system, you can see that we look through the sun, Mercury, and Venus and Mars, looking into that sort of Aquarius Pisces space. And we're looking a little bit further, and we can catch Saturn out there also in Pisces, and Jupiter and Uranus out here into Taurus. So sometimes it's lovely to have a look at the planets from not just our charts perspective, but see if you can find a way to see the solar system and the movements. This one that we're looking at on screen is called the Sky Live, but there are several free ways to watch the animation of the planets. So there is also from our perspective, a Venus and Mars conjunction right there in Aquarius. That is happening on the 22nd, so very soon. And if you're looking on screen, I guess from our Earth perspective here, it looks to us like Venus and Mars are lined up. So that's what that conjunction is. They will be sharing the same degrees of Aquarius, about 6 degrees of Aquarius. And we'll talk about each of their energies in Aquarius. But I guess what we could say is that very interested in conserving, valuing, and improving those parts of nature and our interconnectedness that are voiceless. So maybe even promoting some passionate activism on behalf of those people who can't speak for themselves, including the planet. And then the only other things to remind you of is that Aquarius is a fixed sign. We just talked about that. These planets that are in Aquarius are going to be Rasi aspecting the active signs of Aries, Libra, and Cancer. And when the planets move into Pisces, then they are going to be Rasi aspecting Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. And what you really need to understand to make these transits applicable is to take these locations of the planets, mostly Aquarius and Pisces, and work out which houses those are in your own birth chart. So if you're an Aries ascendant, there's going to be a lot of 11 and 12th house energy during this solar month, Pisces. If you are a Taurus ascendant, that would be the 10th and the 11th houses getting a lot of activation. If you're Gemini, it would be the 9th and the 10th houses. So you need to work out what is your ascendant. And in the whole house, whole sign system, that will tell you what Aquarius and Pisces are ruling. And you can tell when that energy is going to be activated for you. And if we think about it, just taking one of those planets, the sun, that's the one that we know is going to be in Pisces the whole time. Again, if you're, for example, a Leo ascendant, we know that the sun is your first lord. And by being in Pisces for the whole month, it's going to be in your 8th house. So that solar energy is going to be activating the 8th house of sun breaks and changes. So you want to combine Pisces, the 8th house of your chart, whatever planets you have in your 8th house, with that solar energy. And we do that for every ascendant. So if you're a Virgo ascendant, that's going to be ruling your 12th. The sun rules your 12th, and it'll be in the 7th, in the partnership. So you need to apply that, and we could go through each of them. Libra, it would be the 11th lord in your 6th house, and Scorpio, 10th in your 5th house. So that's quite a graceful combination, isn't it? Very different from the sign before, which is Libra, 11th in the 6th. So you need to work out what the planet rules and what house Pisces rules for you. And this will give you a real flavor about personalizing that transit. However, the thing to keep in mind in general about Pisces, this solar Pisces month, is that Saturn is already located in Pisces. So we're going to be experiencing some of that starvation, or in this case, thirst, that Saturn would be providing just by being co-located in the same sign of Pisces. Each of these planets, which is Mercury, Venus, and the Sun, might be feeling that sense of restriction, even though they are in the expansive Pisces, which just might not quite feel as free. So those are the main things that change during the month, and that's where you want to take your own ascendant, work out what these planets rule, and see how their movements through Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries are going to impact on your experience. And to help with that, you might like to work up for yourself a little chart. And I'm going to share with you the one that I use that you might like to download on my Patreon site. Let's go have a look at it. I have my new monthly planner in front of me because the sun has entered Pisces. So we have the solar month of Pisces in front of us. So it's a good time to have a look at what's going on with the transits during that time that the sun is in Pisces. These are from the Tropical Ayanamsa. So because we're looking at the sun entering, and it is the sun that creates the Rasis, these 12 divisions, the solar divisions of the 360-degree space of the zodiac. So we have here on the 20th of February, the sun entering Pisces. And you can see that every time that it moves a degree, we get a new day here on planet Earth. So that is why it's a nice chance to set your diary up around the way that the sun moves, because of this beautiful 1 day, 1 degree situation. So there's the sun. And then I'm just using this as a tool to speak with you guys, but we also have, if you're on screen, we also have a column for the moon, then Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Also the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and our 2 nodes. And these just come from a tropical ephemeris. So you could get them of color. If you have color, it's available from the tools menu, or you can just internet search for ephemeris and you'll get this data. Let's have a look at some of the main things that are happening during this solar month of Pisces. We have the sun spending the whole month in Pisces, and the moon is also going to do its usual journey during the time that the sun is in one sign. Of course, the moon goes all the way around the zodiac. So the moon is currently in Cancer at the start of this solar month of Pisces, and it will move all the way through by the time the sun exits Pisces and enters Aries. The moon will go on all the way to Leo, and it will be just getting ready for that lunar eclipse that's happening at the very beginning of the Aries solar month, something that this month is really leading us towards. So you can see on the chart that the moon spends somewhere between 2 and 2.5 days in each of the zodiac signs. And as it goes on that journey, its relationship with the sun is visible to us through the shape that the moon makes in the sky. And as the sun enters into Pisces, the moon is coming up towards full. So it's actually going to be full on the 24th of February. And then it will be waning all the way through till it is new again when that happens on the 10th of March in Pisces, when the sun and moon reconnect with each other. If you're watching on screen, right next door to that, I have a little keyword about whether it's waxing or waning. And right next door to that, I have the TTs, just the number of the day, whether it's Sukla or whether it's in Krishna. That is whether it's waxing or waning. And then we can have a look at what's happening with the other planets that are transiting as well, because if you notice, we have, as well as when the sun enters Pisces, we have Mercury, Venus, and Mars all in Aquarius. So the sun just left Aquarius, and there's a whole bunch of planets that are also there: Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Now, this is a little bit predates our monthly planner here, because if you think back to January 20th, when the sun entered Aquarius, the very next day on January 21st, Pluto entered Aquarius. So all through solar month of Aquarius, we had a lot of stimulation to the sign of Aquarius. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And that continues here. Mercury is there just for the beginning. Venus is in Aquarius all the way through till 12th March. And Mars stays in Aquarius for the whole month, working its way from about 5 degrees to about 27, 28 degrees. So that's a lot of Aquarius energy. There are some other things to point out as well, and they are that Saturn is in Pisces as well. So while we have a lot of Aquarius energy, we also have a lot of Pisces energy. We have the sun going into Pisces, then Mercury is going to get there, and then Venus is going to get there, where they will meet Saturn, who's been there for a little while now. So Saturn is in 8 degrees at the moment of Pisces, and it will just work its way through towards 12, around 12 degrees of Pisces during this solar month that the sun spends here. So most of everything of the visible planets is either in Aquarius or in Pisces. The only exception to that is Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Taurus. It starts the month at about 9 degrees of Taurus, and it is going through till 14, 15 degrees of Taurus during this solar month of Pisces. So that's what's happening with the visible planets. With the nodes, they are right in the middle of Aries and Libra. Rahu is at around 15 and 16 degrees of Aries, and K2 is the same in Libra. And as far as our outer planets go, we already talked about Pluto. It's at the very beginning of Aquarius. Neptune is going to be in Pisces, another planet there, highlighting that Pisces energy. And Uranus is also echoing another sign that we've talked about. It is in Taurus. So concentration of planetary energies. And what does that mean for us? Let's see if we can get in touch with some of these placements, see if there's anything useful that we can say to our clients about so much Pisces and so much Aquarius energy. In terms of Aquarius, we want to remember that Aquarius is a fixed air sign. So it's like the atmosphere, and it helps us to concentrate on global events because of this fixed air atmosphere. With so many planets in Aquarius, perhaps our awareness is turning more to global events. And Aquarius also has a connectedness with nature, or rather the interconnectedness of nature. Nature as a symbiotic existence that is promoting itself, promoting life through this network of natural manifestation. So that's very much an Aquarius type of energy. And we can think about that with the symbolism of the human pouring out the pot, that this is reminding us like the cycles, the natural cycles of life and death that we observe all the time. The water coming out of the pot is reminding us to share our resources, that nothing belongs to us, that there's really no value in material goods unless we're sharing them in that natural way, in that symbiotic way, creating resources for our community. It's a Saturn sign as well, Aquarius, so it does remind us of the limitations, just like we were talking about the life and death cycles of nature. Aquarius reminds us of these things. And we have various planets in Aquarius. So we have Mars, Mercury, and Venus in Aquarius. And this reminds us that Mars in Aquarius loves the engineering of nature, the engineering of the interconnectedness of all communities and all things. But it's also so very pragmatic, being a Saturn sign, that Mars is going to try and solve some of these problems. Aquarius is a Tamasic sign because it's a Saturn sign. It's going to try and solve some of these problems, but it's also going to realize that it's not able to fix everything. It's going to pick what to work on, and if things don't work, it's going to try something else. Learning by doing. Mars is learning by doing in Aquarius. With Mercury being in Aquarius, on one side, Mercury loves to understand the rules of life. So being in this sign of all that interconnectedness in nature is a great way for Mercury to learn about rules, which is really good. But at the same time, maybe it's a bit Tamasic, a bit serious. So Mercury might miss out on the chance to be a little bit more playful. Both Mercury and Mars feeling that restriction of Saturn, that neither of them are able to go to their full potential there. But whereas Venus in Aquarius is going to put that quality of value, valuing conservation, valuing the resources that we have, the beauty of the system, the symbiotic system that we have of nature and interconnectedness, and really going to value what we can preserve. And I guess for all of these planets, perhaps give us the chance to speak up for nature and for communities, those things that don't have a voice of their own. So we could find sometimes with Mercury, the communicator, Venus wanting to conserve things, and Mars wanting to take action. A bit that rebel or protest energy that try to defend these systems that don't have a champion. They need their champions. It is also a masculine sign, so it's helping us to understand the realities of life and understand the realities of nature, and encouraging us to commune and to give all of our wisdom and our experience and our resources to pull them together. So it's nice to see that kind of energy stimulated in the world. And right next door, we have a lot going on in Pisces, right? We have the sun being in Pisces for the whole month. We have Saturn already being there, and we know that Neptune is there as well. And then we know that Venus and Mercury are going to enter Pisces as well. So this month, we generally think about, with the sun being in Pisces, it's a time for us to be reminded of the transcendence of how this material reality that we think is a reality that we manifest in all the time is an illusion, that it's actually what is beyond matter, the non-material. That is where all the magic is. All of that science of manifestation of creation, like that, the energy, the subatomic particles, all of these things that we can't see with our naked eye, but are actually the rules of the universe, what's attracted to each other and how elements are attracted to each other and create substances that we can then touch and feel and manipulate. So Pisces helps us to see the patterns that are the reality that underlies the material world. And when the sun is in Pisces for this month, that can be very inspiring to see that interconnectedness, to see through the illusion of materiality. So that's the benefit of having the sun in Pisces for a month. It's a moksha sign that's helping us to evolve and to see the truth. It is a water sign, and it's big and expansive water, right? Because Jupiter owns this sign of Pisces, and Jupiter has that connection with ether. So it's like the biggest ocean in a way, the biggest expansive ocean. And some of our planets are going to do very well here, and some of them are going to struggle. So we talked about the sun. He's maybe got the chance to do well here. We know that the new moon is going to take place in Pisces, and moon in Pisces, we can think about all of that compassionate, intuitive, even motherly type of energy, like the enormous expanse of the heart of the moon, and increasing our empathy with others. So this is perhaps the gift of the new moon being in Pisces, solar month. We have Venus, also a watery planet, in this water sign, and this is where Venus is exalted. So this is a lovely combination because we deeply, profoundly see the beauty of the interconnectedness of the non-material that is joining all of us together. So a sense of the whole. Really, this is Venus being inspired by Jupiter the Guru. So Venus the Guru being inspired by Jupiter the Guru. Venus bringing all of that taste, the water sense of taste, the somatic wisdom of Venus, but in the context of the enormous spread out ocean of Jupiter's sign of Pisces. It's a lovely combination for Venus. However, maybe for Mercury and Saturn, this is a more difficult combination. Mercury is debilitated here in Pisces in some ways because it is boundless, and Mercury works so well with boundaries because it's able to use those boundaries to create manifestation, to organize and to tee up things to happen in the right way. For Mercury, it can be very inspiring to be in Pisces, but it can lead to maybe some frustration of not being able to manifest those inspirations. So a bit of patience here for Mercury after the seriousness of being in Rasi Aquarius. And for Saturn, in some ways, they share a similar goal, right? Saturn is all about letting go and being detached. And Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. So in some ways, they're on the same page. But in another way, Pisces is so big and expansive and boundless and free that can feel like a lot of risk for Saturn. It can stimulate that fear of Saturn, of having no control, and worrying of if we let go and let God, there's that worry, what will actually happen? And often we think about water, Pisces, surfing, and it's like that when surfing is going really well, we're just riding a wave and we're in the zone and it's all flow, and actually all the forces are limited and restricted. That's why it's suddenly working. It's the power of the water and the speed and the smoothness of the board with the fin in the water and the air, all of those limitations making a dance that makes surfing so amazing. But then we get the crashing out and the just complete power of the wave consuming us, throwing us onto the rocks, whatever it is. So this is a little bit that Saturn Pisces thing. Like it could work really well, but it can also be a bit overwhelming because there's a lack of boundaries and a lack of things to control. And in some ways we can think about that with the Trump situation in the US, that there's this pressure to decide whether it's good to prosecute this person, make them accountable for their actions, or whether it's better just to go with the flow and let the people vote and make their decision. Let go and let it happen. And you can feel that tension between those two approaches. And maybe Saturn here in Pisces, it depends a little bit on what's happening with Jupiter because it's Jupiter's sign, and Pisces works so well with faith. So it depends a little bit on whether Jupiter in the chart is providing faith. And that maybe is a nice segue towards the only other planet that's doing anything other than a Pisces or Aquarius situation, which is Jupiter is over there in Taurus. And in some ways it's a very beautiful thing because the bliss of Jupiter is in this very earth nourishing kind of sign. So the bliss of beauty, of art, of the material form, and Jupiter's expansion and optimism in this very earth nurturing sign. So on one level, that's very good. But on another level, we have to remember that really Jupiter gets starved in the signs of Venus. And so this is the other side of, we talked about Venus being in a Jupiter sign. This is the other side. This is Jupiter in a Venus sign. And that causes starvation. It can limit Jupiter, which is naturally expansive and naturally sees all realities at the same time, the physical, the non-manifest. But when it's in a Venus sign, it gets starved a little bit to see and concentrate on the material side. Perhaps that's a downside of having Jupiter in Taurus. But maybe it's very beautiful. Suddenly I'm just thinking about so much beauty that we have, for example, like with Taylor Swift and the Eras tour. She's touring Australia at the moment, so that comes on my newsfeed a bit. And there are other big, beautiful tours with female artists, Beyonce, Madonna, and Pink is in Australia as well. And these are really great and beautiful things. And in some ways, they are a distraction from maybe some of the other big things the big divisive things that we haven't quite come to terms with. So it's not that they're a bad thing, but maybe they're not employing that whole interconnectedness. They're just really enjoyable, delightful events. Anyway, that's a spontaneous thought that comes to mind. So that's an overview of what's happening in the sky this month while Pisces is hosting the sun. And you might like to make for yourself some kind of planning sheet like this as well. Or if you're one of my patrons on Patreon, you can download this. All of the paying tiers have access to this. And I just use it to make notes and observe what's going on in my life as these transits are going on. So then that's the important thing that we want to talk about with transits, that it's all great to talk about what's going on generally in the sky, and that's what we just did. But what's most important is how that is interacting with your own personal chart. If you use something like this, if you were to use this chart, you can enter in your planetary positions. So you would go look up your data, and then you can write in here, oh, my sun is at 50, Mercury is at 7. Obviously, you could write neater than I am. Just put in all of your placements and which sign they're in so that you begin to see how your numbers relate to what's going on in the sky. Because I want to point out a few things. We have a few planets in the middle of the sign. We already talked about Aries and Libra are hosting Rahu and Ketu in the middle of the sign. Uranus is not that far from the middle of the sign. Jupiter is approaching the middle of the sign. So is Saturn. Mars is transiting through the middle of Aquarius. Venus goes through the middle of Aquarius. And Mercury is moving very fast. It goes through the middle of both Pisces and Aries. But think about that. If you have planets that are in middle degrees in your chart, you might find that you're forming aspects or geometrical patterns with some of these planets. The other thing that you might like to notice about the planets is that Pluto is at the beginning. And we have the sun going into the beginning, and all of these, Mercury's going to go through the beginning, Venus is going to go through the beginning. So if you have planets right at the start of a sign, there's also some aspects to maybe or conjunctions to look out for you. So that's why I use this chart to write down up the top here. I just write in all of my true degrees, and then I can compare during the days of the month where those things get close to each other. And here I just write observations about how my day was or the things that stood out for me. So that's how you can use that. And then if you like, And you can also just monitor your habits. So if you're trying to run every day, you're trying to drink water every day, you're trying to meditate every day, you can just color in the box when you do achieve that. And it will, at the end of the month, you can see how many days you were your meditation practice or how many days you took time to connect with your body, whatever your particular habits are. Hopefully that is a nice little overview of some of the planetary transits for this solar month of Pisces. If you want to grab this planner, then just come on over to Patreon and become one of my patrons, and it will be there and you get access to a whole lot of other things as well. Okay, great. Look forward to seeing you there. Bye, everyone.